Hey everyone, and welcome back to Planet Coaster. Now, you might be thinking, Uthris, didn't you upload Planet Coaster yesterday? And the answer is yes. I'm going to try and do even more Planet Coaster than before. One, because it seems like, you guys are supporting it outstandingly, and I want to kind of give you guys what you want to see, obviously, but also I want to take a break from just focusing on one build and start branching out so that I can keep the creativity kind of flowing. Now, the special thing about this episode is that it's basically the build series that we were working on previously, but this one's going to have to be split up into multiple parts just simply to how big this structure is that we're going to be doing. And from the title, you can obviously tell that we are making an cathedral here. And this is from World of Warcraft. This is the Cathedral of Light. Back in the day when I did play World of Warcraft for a couple years, I was a Paladin, so this was obviously one of my stopping grounds, being in the Alliance. And this is kind of an iconic building that I just wanted to try and capture for you guys, hopefully the correct way. Now, I am showing you this initial footage, and this initial footage was from like the first hour of building, and it is actually scrapped. So what happens is, a lot of the time with YouTubers who show, time-lapse footage or footage in general of them doing something creative, I get the feeling that, overwhelmingly it's always a success or something they're very happy with. And with this initial episode, I want to show you something that I'm not happy with and why I scrapped it. So if you take a look here, it has kind of the base elements of one of the front facade pieces of the cathedral. And what I'm doing here is I'm trying to use some of the grid alignment things to give me a framework to work off of, and then using that as a springboard essentially to hopefully make the rest of the building. Now, this is kind of a quick, somewhat lazy way to go about doing this, but it does work in certain scenarios if you're building a boxy structure or what we've been doing lately in the sci-fi park. But what it can get you into trouble is the fact that there are elements with this structure that this does not capture. So the Cathedral of Light is actually a very angular structure. It's not boxy really at all. It's kind of these gentle slopes going upwards, and that actually makes up most of the walls. So this initial attempt here, though it has kind of the elements that you will find on that cathedral, it's not going to look like the cathedral correctly, and that actually bugged me a whole lot. And as I was going over this a couple episodes ago during the sci-fi build, in that, confidence is a major part when you're doing something creative, this killed my confidence. Now, there's a couple ways to restore confidence when you are doing something creative like this. Step one would either be, take a break, maybe do something to relax for a bit. Step two would be to look at some images, possibly kind of get re-inspired, or basically power through it. I chose step three basically because of time constraints, and sometimes power throughing it is pretty much the only thing it can do. And so that's why I feel like I struggled with this build in general, but I think we're at a good point moving forward. And it's just something, I don't think you learn by not doing something you're not comfortable with, or just because you're upset with how it's going doesn't mean you should give up. You should be basically always trying to build and progress. Like, even as I start over here, you'll find elements that I'm just removing quickly just because it's just not working out. But I did start over to get this angled facade on here. And this is probably about a 10-degree angle. I don't think it's quite the 15-degree angle lock on there, but it is a lot more successful, and it gives a little bit more depth. Now, obviously, I'm not going into the full detail on this initial pass on this structure, as setting this up and trying to keep the part limit low is my main concern at this point, as eventually I do want to upload it to the workshop. It's going to be probably very similar to our Skyrim build in the fact that it is most likely going to be divided into 2 buildings, probably a front section and a back section. That's just how these larger things are saved, and hopefully you guys can find a use for it. In fact, I kind of also want to maybe do a World of Warcraft park at some point, maybe recreate all of Stormwind. That would be quite the task indeed, though, as just building the Cathedral of Light was a little bit of a challenge here. So this is, the front facade, the front 2 towers. These are generally kind of, in terms of standard cathedral layout, these would be the standard bell towers that you would find. And they have some interesting buttressing on them. They don't have flying buttresses. They are just standard, I forget the technical term for these type of buttressing, but it is very flush to the wall. They don't fly out from the building at all. They just basically reinforce the structure in columns that are just attached. And you get this effect actually going up the roof line and onto these spires and onto the main spire in the center there. And that is, of course, one of the bell towers kind of on the front. Now, we're only finishing really the front 2 bell towers and the staircase today, this episode, as this is really designing and laying the groundwork for the rest of the building and kind of the design methodology that goes into the rest, and laying down kind of just practicing, I guess you could say, with the overall design. And I kind of want to make a series on design philosophy and like maybe taking elements from inspiration and things like that to possibly get you guys interested in looking at like reference materials for your own builds and things like that, and trying to just capture a lot of the main elements in those to hopefully speed up your guys' process as well. As you know, I feel like my channel is hopefully geared to help you guys understand, basic building mechanics and things like that. I may not be the best builder out there, but I am certainly hoping to inspire you guys to at least become the builders I think you guys can be. Now, the cathedral, we are only building the front section. This is a time saver, of course, and if we just build the front section and copy it around, we'll make a nice perfect box, which this kind of tower is. And I do test it from time to time just to make sure the grid alignment is working out for us. That is something that you really want to watch out for when you're trying to use this method to save yourself a whole lot of time, because individually placing all this, of course, would be quite the bother. Up here at the top of the spire, we basically end up chopping that off and keeping it flat for now, just for the ease of creativity and to speed up the process, because if I were to try and make the roof at this point, it probably wouldn't work out for us. Cleaning up a little bit of the interior, some of the redundant pieces that are involved. In fact, when you copy it over, you'll find that maybe the corners are copying multiple times, and you can cut down pieces and hopefully save the part count a little bit lower than before. And that is a pretty standard thing that I think people know kind of by now, but you want to keep your parts well placed and well thought out enough to where you can actually save these things and share them on the workshop, because I think that's one of the most important features to Planet Coaster. Now, initially on this doorway here, there are a couple of reference images from different angles, so the door kind of looks at kind of skewed in some of these shots that I'm using, but also I don't really have anything pointy enough. It's a very gothic arch, and so what I have to do to make this high arch there is simply take the half arches and squish them together as close as possible to make that width a decent enough. Here we are testing out maybe what we can do for the upper spire, maybe cheating a little bit by using some roofing. There's nothing really in the game roof tile wise that we can use for a quarter grid like this, and usually what you're going to have to do is probably make your own custom roof for this. I end up probably cheating a little bit here that we'll probably see a bit later on, in the real-time section just so you can see some of the finer details on the structure, that we use some of the roof elements plus a cylinder to give it some height. So it's a bit of a combination. It's a little cheaty. I would have probably liked to handcraft that roof, but you know, as we say, parts really matter when you're kind of designing this stuff. So you can see going through some test phases, trying to figure out some certain things. These actually ended up all being failures just because I wasn't really aligning things right, and I think I was just trying to rush it to get things done, and that's when you basically start to make your mistakes, is that you know, getting a little frustrated, and at that point you might as well just take a break for a bit and then come back to it later. So we're going to finish up the speed build section as I fail at making the roof line there, and we'll go ahead and take a look at it in its finished form so you guys can give some feedback, possibly if I missed anything. If you guys play WoW, I'm sure you'll notice. Okay, so here we are in real time, so you guys can see kind of the finer details. I did off camera put the staircase on, and it is probably not as steep as it would be in the game. In fact, if I wanted to be as steep, I would probably only have to use one width for these staircases, but I feel like doubling it up just made my process a little bit easier to do this kind of octagonal staircase that kind of spills out from the front there. Why do I hear cowbells? Okay, right, maybe I'm just going crazy. So we have the front. Here is my little solution for these little towers, spires, things here. Basically using the cylinders to give us some height, and then using this to give us the peaks on there. And from a distance, it generally works. I would have liked maybe a more gentle, kind of taller slope on those, but really with the pieces that we have, that's the best I can do without just handcrafting it. Now there are some ugly areas on the wall here, like you can see elements sticking out and just meshing really poorly here as I was just struggling through this build. And as I said in the speed build section, that, you know, not only do I want to show you guys like my greatest stuff every day, I do want to show you that I do make mistakes myself, so that you guys shouldn't get as frustrated, hopefully, when you're building on your things. You know, this takes time. It's not really the most forgiving thing in the world, and if you're too hard on yourself, generally it might be more inhibiting than helpful. The front kind of bell towers here, pretty standard. We got, you know, some height, though I think the games are a little bit taller than what I'm currently portraying here, and this roof might be a little too wide, but you know, sometimes you're just limited by parts. We also have let's see, we have the interior, which is a mess of blocks here, and you can see just some redundancies sticking through that you can clean up to lower the part count to help you save it. We're currently at 1796 total parts in here, and in fact a lot of this stuff in the corners could probably go away once we add on the back section and the back 2/3 probably. We're only a third away through this build right now, and a lot of little detailing should go into it. You know, some more stonework, some proper layering of depth, and things like that. So this is basically a little bit of a taste, and to kind of cleanse our palate that we've been working on the sci-fi for so long. I do want to continue to make other things in Planet Coaster for you guys to enjoy. So I think we will basically be running 2 Planet Coaster series at once. We'll maintain the sci-fi park until that's done, but we'll also do builds as well. And I might do some daily Planet Coaster for you guys for your entertainment, and I hope you guys like that. So, if you guys enjoyed today's video, feel free to subscribe to my channel for more creative goodness such as this. Go ahead and hit that like button so I know you guys want to see more Planet Coaster.